Namaste and Jai Hind to each and every one of you today. Now, this is not just another podcast episode. This is a salute. A salute to the men and women who are standing tall right now so that the nation can sleep peacefully. This is a tribute to those who carry the weight of our safety on their shoulders without ever asking for an applause. I am Commander Bimal Raj and I speak to you today not just as a citizen of this great country, but as a proud veteran of the Indian Armed Forces. You see, once you have worn the uniform, it never leaves you. It becomes your identity, your pride, your purpose. And today I bring you this episode from the deepest place of my heart, to honor the force that made me who I am. I will not go into personal stories or emotional tales, though there are many and you keep hearing enough of those. Today I want to talk about facts, verified, powerful and inspiring facts that showcase the evolution, strength and unmatched dedication of the Indian Armed Forces. From ancient battlefields to modern satellites, from the icy heights of Siachen to the vast waters of the Indian Ocean, our forces have stood guard, not to conquer, but to protect. This episode is for every Indian who feels pride when they see the tricolor flutter. It's for every listener who wants to understand why the world respects Indian soldiers. And most importantly, it's for our brave warriors of the past, present and future. So whether you're at home, commuting or working out, or just taking a moment for yourself, I hope this episode awakens something powerful within you. Let's begin this journey not with emotion but with pride, not with stories but with truths, and above all, with unshakable respect for the bravest sons and daughters of Bharat, guardians of our great nation. Well, when we think of Indian Armed Forces today, we imagine discipline, power and purpose. But like every great institution, this too has a powerful story of origin across centuries. Let me take you back, not to 1947, but thousands of years earlier. India's military tradition didn't begin with independence. Our roots in warfare and strategy go back to the Mauryan Empire. Under Emperor Chandragupta Maurya in the 4th century BC, India had one of the world's largest standing armies. We had nearly 600,000 soldiers, 30,000 cavalry and 9,000 war elephants. His minister Chanakya authored the Arthashastra, a detailed treatise on war, diplomacy and military organization. It was centuries ahead of its time. Another notable dynasty is the Chola dynasty in the 9th to 13th centuries. They were one of the few Indian empires to project naval power beyond our shores. The Chola Navy was so powerful that it launched successful overseas expeditions across the Bay of Bengal into Southeast Asia, long before the colonial navies even existed. Yes, India had blue water naval ambitions nearly 1,000 years ago. The modern structure of the armed forces took place under the British rule. In 1757, after the Battle of Plassey, the British East India Company began organizing Indian troops systematically, and this gave rise to what would later become the British Indian Army. By the time World War I broke out in 1914, over 1.3 million Indian soldiers had volunteered to fight along the British. The number increased to 2.5 million in World War II, making the Indian Army the largest volunteer force in the world at the time. Indian soldiers fought in Europe, Africa, the Middle East and Southeast Asia. They won more than 4,000 awards of gallantry, including 38 Victoria Crosses, the British Empire's highest military honor. Let me make one thing very clear. They weren't fighting for the British crown. They were fighting for honor, for duty and for each other. That courage, that discipline became the foundation of independent India's armed forces. On 15th August 1947, India inherited more than just territory. It inherited one of the most battle-tested professional military institutions in the world. But we didn't just keep what we got, we transformed it. We dropped the royal tag. We Indianized the leadership. We started building our own military identity, rooted in Bharat, but shaped by modern vision. So when we talk about Indian Armed Forces today, remember, they were not built overnight. They are the product of ancient strength, colonial endurance, and post-independence vision. Now let's talk about the wars that shaped us. Well, if you want to understand the character of a soldier, observe them not in peace but in war. The Indian armed forces have never been about conquest or aggression. But when our sovereignty, our people, or our borders have been threatened, the response has always been swift, disciplined, and unforgettable. Let's begin with 1947, just months after independence. Pakistan-backed tribal forces invaded Kashmir. India responded decisively under the leadership of Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa. Indian troops pushed back the invaders and secured large parts of Jammu and Kashmir. This war defined our military identity. We do not provoke, but we definitely do protect. Next came the war with China in 1962. And to be honest, we were unprepared. China's attack in the eastern and northern sectors exposed our strategic gaps. But what's more important is what happened after. India didn't bow down. Instead, it began a complete overhaul of the military infrastructure. We strengthened mountain warfare capabilities, built high-altitude roads, and increased troop strength. It was a painful lesson, but a big turning point. Then came 1965, another attempt by Pakistan to seize Kashmir through Operation Gibraltar. What followed was a fierce 22-day war, and India stood unshaken. Our forces not only defended but launched counter-offensives deep into enemy territory. The Indian Army fought shoulder to shoulder across Punjab and Rajasthan. Our Air Force destroyed key enemy installations and our Navy blocked sea routes. And then 1971. Now this was more than a war, it was a declaration of India's military prowess. The genocide in East Pakistan forced 10 million refugees into India. The humanitarian crisis was unbearable. Diplomacy failed, and India acted. In just 13 days, the Indian Armed Forces achieved one of the greatest military victories in modern history. Over 90,000 Pakistani soldiers surrendered, the largest surrender after World War II. A new nation, Bangladesh, was born. India showed the world that when pushed, we respond with strategy, speed, and strength. 1971 wasn't just India's victory, it was a victory for justice, for humanity. Now let's move to 1999, the Kargil War. Pakistani soldiers disguised as militants occupied Indian posts in the icy heights of Kargil. But India refused to let it pass. Operation Vijay was launched. Our soldiers climbed vertical cliffs under enemy fire at altitudes above 18,000 feet. No air support, no cover, just sheer grit. In one of the most heroic campaigns ever witnessed, every inch of Indian territory was reclaimed. Names like Captain Vikram Batra, Lieutenant Manoj Pandey, and Grenadier Yogendra Yadav became legends, not because they sought glory, but because they earned it. And beyond these wars, let's not forget the silent operations. Operation Meghdoot of 1984, securing the Siachen Glacier, the world's highest battlefield. Operation Cactus in 1988, where Indian paratroopers landed in the Maldives within hours to stop a coup, showcasing our unmatched rapid deployment capability. See, India's armed forces act only when every other option is exhausted. We didn't ask for these wars, but once we start, we finish them with honor, strategy, and unmatched courage. And that, my friends, is what makes a force unforgettable. Now, today's wars are not fought just with guns and tanks. They are fought with satellites, data, precision systems, and above all, technology. And India is not just keeping up, we are setting benchmarks. Let's talk strategy first. India is among a very exclusive group of nations with a nuclear triad. That means we have the ability to launch nuclear weapons from land, air, and the sea. This ensures second strike capability, a powerful deterrent that tells any adversary, if you strike us, we will still have the strength to respond decisively. Our crown jewel in this space, the INS Arihant, India's first indigenously built nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine. It operates deep beneath the ocean, silently protecting our interest. And it's not just underwater. The Indian Air Force today operates a mix of world's most powerful fighter jets, from the French Rafale to the Russian Sukhois. But even more impressively, we have our own, the Tejas light combat aircraft designed and developed in India. It's fast, agile and fully indigenous. On the ground, we have built the Arjun main battle tank, developed our own artillery systems like the Dhanush, and operate precision missile systems like the Agni and Prithvi series. See, it's not just about having capabilities, it also shows how self-reliant we are when it comes to protecting our borders. In fact, we have moved way beyond now. We are a force to reckon even in outer space. India has integrated space technology into military operations. Our satellites provide high-resolution surveillance, weather, and real-time intelligence. In 2019, India conducted Mission Shakti, an anti-satellite missile test that made us just the fourth country in the world to demonstrate this capability. That's right, India can neutralize threats in space as well. We do conduct regular joint military exercises with global powers like the US, Japan, Russia, France, and others. These tries are strategic, not just in exercises but in intelligence sharing, training, and innovation. Let me give you a simple but very powerful stat. India has the third largest defense budget in the world, not because we want to dominate, but because we are committed to defend 15,000 kilometers of land borders, 7,500 kilometers of coastline, and a population of close to 2 billion. For us, modernization is not a choice, it's our duty. Every new aircraft, every missile test, every naval commissioning is a message to the world. India is peaceful by nature, but powerful by preparation. Let's take a moment to ask who makes all of this happen. Not machines, not metals, but men and women in uniform. They are the soul of the Indian Armed Forces. Let's begin with training. To wear the uniform of the Indian Navy, Army, or the Air Force, one must go through some of the most rigorous trainings in the world. We have institutions like the National Defense Academy, Indian Military Academy, Officers Training Academy, Air Force Academy, and my personal favorite, the Indian Naval Academy in Erimala, which is the largest in Asia and the third largest in the world. These places don't just train you to fight, they train you to lead, to serve, and to sacrifice. To give you a personal insight, let me share my experience. We in the armed forces are normal people just like everyone else. We do have our families and we do have our own challenges. We do crib and complain about a lot of things and we even gossip at times. But however, the moment there is a crisis like what we are seeing today, something incredible happens to everyone. I have seen and experienced it personally both during the Kargil war as well as when there was the parliament attack. It's as if we go through a portal and we enter into a war zone like in the Avengers Endgame. We don't think about our families or our kids. It's like how Clark Kent sheds his civil clothes and becomes Superman. I have seen the most timid and lazy people turn into roaring tigers. There is only one cry on everyone's lips. I can't share it here because it would be considered unparliamentary, but you know what I mean. The single-mindedness and the fierceness of purpose is truly unreal. Sleep and everything else only gets in the way. How else can you logically explain a grown, sensible adult with a wife and child back home go charging in the direction where enemy is spraying bullets? Imagine an entire force acting like that. It's no wonder we achieve feats that no one else does. Mind you, the same applies to the women in the armed forces. Today, women officers command ships, fly fighter jets, and lead troops. India is one of the few countries in the world where women are inducted into combat roles. This is true equality. Now, there is something else you must know, something most people neglect or take for granted. When there is a natural disaster, when civilians are stranded, when all other systems break down, who steps in? The Indian Armed Forces every single time. Whether it's tsunami, floods, earthquake, or anything else where the nation needs help, it's the armed forces that steps in. They are the first to arrive and the last to leave, always and every time, quietly without seeking any credit. You see, Indian soldiers don't just fight wars. They build roads in the Himalayas. They supply food in isolated villages. They conduct rescue operations under impossible conditions. They represent compassion in uniform. But here is what is really powerful. Ask any soldier what they want in return, and they'll say, nothing. They don't seek fame, they don't ask for rewards. They ask only for one thing: respect. So next time you see the flag flying high, remember it's not just a cloth. It's held up by blood, sweat, and selfless service. This is the spirit of the Indian Armed Forces. They are the backbone of its honor, its discipline, and its dignity. As a veteran, I say this with the deepest sense of duty and pride. India is safe because her guardians never rest. You may not see them, you may not hear them, but every single moment on a ship, in a bunker, inside a cockpit, under camouflage, they stand for us, for our children, for our tomorrow. So what can we do in return? We don't need to wear the uniform to serve our country, but we can do this. We must never forget their sacrifices. We can speak with respect about our armed forces. We can thank them for their service if we come across one. Trust me, whenever someone does that with me, I choke and it swells me with pride. Truly, that's all we ask for. Remember, a nation is only strong as the pride its people carry. Let's teach our children not just to salute the flag, but to understand the blood, courage, and sweat behind that flag. Today, when we are facing another crisis from our neighbors, let this episode awaken something powerful inside you. Let it remind you that we are not ordinary citizens. We are Indians, protected by warriors, built by resilience, driven by honor, and with every beat of our heart, we say with pride, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. This is Commander Bimal Raj signing off with a soldier's salute to a billion dreams protected by a few brave hearts. See you soon.